We are looking at another video of photos that were taken by Leroy Smeltzer and shared with us by his son, Glenn. Now, we're again up at the courthouse looking at the Greensburg High School band, assembled for a very important occasion, no doubt. Looking this time down Main Street, flags waving and people out there. Now, this is quite another occasion. This was probably a football game down at Offutt Field, and the band was marching down for the event. Notice how the girls were wearing pants. Majorettes were wearing pants then instead of the short skirts. And here we are at Offutt Field, coming onto the field. That gentleman was the band director. He's the fellow who taught the young high school students how to play their instruments and how to march in step and keep in line. It's nice to see how he fits in so well with the vintage of those cars. It just looks like just a composition that somebody almost staged, but it's probably just what happened one evening on the street. We're looking at the old hotel, probably not long after it was built. In the background, you can see the tower of the jail. And in the next scene we see, we'll see that jail, which is no longer there. It was behind the courthouse. You can see the old jail and the tower, which was springing up here. And these cars give you a good idea of the vintage here. This was a while ago. This was once the town hall, believe it or not. It could have been the Henry Clay Marchand home once upon a time, but it's a place that sat up Main Street right above the railroad and below what's now the museum. And then eventually the town hall moved over to where it is now. Now, this is one of several things I put in as mystery pictures, hoping someone will be able to identify them. This might be one of the factories out at Jeanette, the old glass factories, but I'm not sure of that. Now, here's one that I don't have a clue what it is. It is a mine. Here's another mine that I don't have a clue what it is. Maybe somebody recognizes these. And here is a shop that was somewhere in this area. The time was 1912. That's about as much as I know. And look at these little kids. I mean, they look like they're working there. This was definitely before the time before there were child labor laws. A nice circus picture. And now we see a road trip. We know the date. This was the last day of April in 1916. So this is what a road trip looked like 100 years ago. They looked like they were having a good time. And this was the muscle car of the day. If you wanted to have a car that looked like you could beat the pants off of anything on the road, this is what you got, one of these things. They were light, they had a big engine, and often could outrun just about anything moving. Now, those shots were on the Lincoln Highway, or Route 30, as we know it now. And this is what happened when Route 30 was rearranged or rerouted around Greensburg instead of going through it. This was the paving of the bypass. And road trips did not always go as expected. Sometimes the unexpected happened, and it wasn't good. This is another road trip gone astray. That's a big truck that was coming in on College Avenue and turned over on the curve there. And the old cars had to get gasoline once in a while. This was out at Harold Crossing. And it's surprising. You know, we're used to seeing a gas station that holds or carries only one brand, but here's one that was carrying about 5 different companies. This was the mid-30s, about 1935. Great old locomotive shot. These old machines have a drama of their own. And here is up at Carbon Airport, probably around the time of its opening. 3 planes out for a photo opportunity. This is the road going up to Carbon. And if you look for Route 30, you are not going to find it because it wasn't there yet. This was probably some date in the 1940s. This is out at Mount Odin. Frank Cowan, one of Greensburg's most interesting people, when he passed away, donated his estate, Mount Odin, to the town. And after that, this cabin was brought from up in Ludwig, probably the home of one of the early citizens. This photograph, this picture, shows in the history of the Smeltzer family. This lady was Sarah Reel Smeltzer, who married into the Smeltzer family and was the ancestress of the people that these photos came from. Now over here you can see the location of that mill. This is the main line of the Pennsylvania Railroad, Greensburg over here. This wiggly line is the earlier version of what we now know as Route 30. The Radaba branch was not there in 1876 when this was made, but it ran right down here on its way down to the southwest branch. And the mill we were looking at sat right back here, close to the railroad. For this, we go to New Stanton. Right south of New Stanton is Painterville, or Painterstown. And this mill was one of the, actually this particular structure was not the earliest one. This was around 1850 built, but it was a mill seat from the very early times, from the late 1700s. There was a mill at that location. And then in 1850s, Colonel Israel Painter built this one, and the place is called Painterville. And this is the map. You have to be careful with these old maps because what it calls New Stanton is now called Old Stanton. New Stanton is down this way, and Paintersville is right here. This is the southwest branch going through, and this little blob right here is the mill we were looking at. And if you look at other things around here, you'll see Israel Painter's name on a number of things around here because he was one of the major movers and shakers of the time, of the area. He did a lot of stuff. He had a lot of money, and he promoted coal interests, salt, various types of things. That's Israel Painter, and that's Porky Pig, and we say so long, and we'll see you again. Bye.